to our British counterparts that in order, if they have any questions or let's say any information, they have to deal in accordance with the international law. Russia and the UK are the members of the Organization for Prohibition of the Chemical Weapons, and there are, under Article 9, paragraph 2, there are procedures. In case you have any suspicions, you have to apply to this organization officially and ask for the consultations with the specific countries with whom you have this kind of suspicions, and then you have to get the answer within the 10 days or maybe earlier. And if you are not satisfied with the answer, then you have special procedures where the organization itself will be switched to this process. So instead of that, the British side decided just to talk to us, in a way of the ultimatums. So this is the way how they are behaving.
But just to clarify, for those who don't know, both Britain and Russia are part of that organization.
Yeah, that's right.
So this would be normal protocol under these circumstances, yes, that there's an official request filed and 10 days are given.
That's right. So this is the official procedure, and we all, like all the members of that organization, are subscribed on that. But since we're blamed that this, under the British classification, agent A234 is the Russian origin, we asked the British side officially by note to share the samples of that in order to make our own conclusions. And we were denied. So that gave us additional suspicions about the policy.
Was there a reason given as to why?
No, they said just no. We're not going to give you anything.
And Boris Johnson has said that they are going to send a sample to the OPCW, but not to Russia.
That was later. That was later. So basically, of course, we're welcome to, let's say, to send this to the organization. But still, I just spoke to our ambassador to this organization, and he said that so far the organization didn't get any formal request from the British side. It means that I don't know how they're going to act, but for the time being, no official procedure was launched. And this is another, let's say, very suspicious behavior of the British side. So all the investigation about the Skripal is classified. We don't have any information. We don't have any access. Nobody saw even the pictures of that people in the hospital, whether they're alive or maybe they are just in a good health. So nobody talked to the doctors. You know, there is absolutely no transparency in this case, and this worries us. But by the way, under the international law and the Vienna Convention, we have to get the access to these people because they are Russian citizens. And we're also being denied. So basically, Britain doesn't respect the international law, and the way how they're behaving, it's just puts a lot of questions.
Bonjour, bienvenue.
Bienvenue dans ce journal.
Voici les titres d'actualité.
Notre invité spécial.
Maintenant.
Également cette semaine.
Très bientôt, ça c'est plateau.
Alex, you speak French?
Bonjour, aujourd'hui RT France rejoint la famille RT, une nouvelle chaîne d'infos en continu. Nous poserons les questions que personne n'ose poser. À très bientôt sur RT France.
The combination of Xi Jinping's very artful policy towards Russia, where he has established a great relationship with Putin, and American mistakes, I think, in dealing with Russia, have led this relationship between Russia and China to become quite aligned, indeed quite thick, and would be quite difficult now to undermine.
What did you make of some of the media coverage of this story? Because obviously anti-Russia moods, if you can put it that way, have been prevalent for quite some time. So when this story happened, were you surprised to see the way it unraveled, given the investigation is still going on and the police have not made any official statements in terms of pointing fingers quite yet?
The launch was made after the speech of Boris Johnson. That was the next day. So immediately under the command, of the Foreign Secretary, we got all these media reports without any evidence. If you read the British newspapers, you will see that there are no evidence. This is first. At the beginning of this campaign, we heard two things quite interesting. The first one, there were calls that the license of the RT should be revoked. And the second one, that there were promises in the parliament to launch the cyber attack against Russia. So basically there was a strong reaction from the Russian side about the presence of the RT in the UK. But what is interesting, we officially requested the explanations about the plans of Britain to launch this cyber attack. It's a real cyber attack against the country. It's the act of war. First of all, we didn't get the official answer to this note. And somehow, 2 days ago, that topic disappeared from the British newspapers and from any statements from in the parliament. So basically, I think that the British side decided that was too much. So two things: RT and the cyber attack disappeared from the British media. So this is the answer to your question.
What do you make of some of the terminology being used, including Theresa May, Boris Johnson? She's used the words highly likely. That got a lot of traction. He today said, when asked how certain he is that Russia's behind this on a scale from 1 to 10, he said 9.98. Yet he's also said there's overwhelming evidence that points at Russia. Do you think, given the gravity of the accusations and the consequences that are clearly already following in this story, there should just be more certainty provided?
I'll tell you, this is quite a trick, because when you don't have evidence, when you don't have any proofs, you have to use the word likely, probably, maybe. Because the British side cannot provide any information, they cannot provide any access to the investigation. That's why, in order to say something for sure, you have to present the evidence, and they cannot do this.
But then why would they go so far with these kinds of measures that are being put in place?
I think this is if you look back to the policy of the UK, you will find that Britain, in new circumstances, is trying to find its new place in let's say, even in the Western society, because they are leaving EU, and everything what is left, I'm not talking about the United Nations, but the key organization, this is NATO. And Britain is trying to find the place, and this place they found on so-called anti-Russian campaign and the way how they want to deter Russia. That's why we have seen a year ago the new concept of national security, where Russia was named as the major enemy to Britain. Then there was a banquet speech where we basically got the confirmation that we're the enemy. And there is one more reason for, let's say, diverting the attention of the British public this is the Brexit. Because the situation with the negotiations is not so easy in this country. And Britain will definitely has to find the solutions with the European Union, and for the time being, I don't see any results from the negotiations. And they have, in order to divert the attention from the Brexit, they have to, let's say, to present something to the public that could move a little bit to the other side. And that's a great possibility to launch this anti-Russian campaign, anti-Russian attack. And so this is the scenario which was written in London, but from my point of view, this is a very short-sighted scenario, because in the long run, Britain have to explain what is behind all these things in Salisbury. I think they have to explain what they're doing in this secret chemical laboratory, which is 8 miles from the Salisbury, where they investigated that substance based on their, let's say, information on their samples, based on the certain standards they have. And this, I think this will be the question that they have to clarify in the Organization for Proliferation of the Chemical Weapons. Because everything what is being said today looks for us very suspicious.
Just to go back for a little bit to the relationship between Russia and the UK now. Where does it go from here? Because we've seen in recent months, especially with some of the accusations flying around, people have been asking, is this kind of new Cold War? Today, Williamson was asked about this, and he said, he didn't use the term Cold War, but he said extremely, extremely chilly. Where does the relationship go from here? And where would Russia like it to go from here? This week and then moving forward, and what would it take to for this kind of gridlock to move somewhere?
Well, if you look at the concept of the Russian foreign policy and everything what we did all these years, the major task for us is to create favorable conditions for the development of my country. So this is the way how we are putting all the relations with all the other countries. By the way, if you look at the world, you will find that maybe something like with the 120 countries, we don't have a visa regime, so we want to have the friendly relations. So that was the goal, of course, of our policy with the UK, and that was the job of any ambassador, including me. And all these years, despite the difficulties that we have with Britain, we tried to find the opportunities for the political dialogue, and we created the right formats, you know, like the Minister of Defense format. You know, there was active participation in the political life during the Olympic Games here. So we tried to promote the economic relations, and you know, business is our ally here, because you know they simply don't understand what's happening, you know, with the government, but they have limited influence on them. So culture, science, you know, everybody's interested, and probably the political, let's say, so-called deep state. So they are putting the policy that we are witnessing. So basically, the approach will be very simple. First of all, we want to clarify all the questions that are behind this kind of a provocation. This is exactly what we see. This is first. And then we'll see what are the other possibilities, because we have to influence Britain. Britain is the permanent member of the Security Council, and we're interested to hear our views, and we want to influence on the British policy. And in order to have this influence, you have to have the mechanisms. That's why our policy will be, let's say, quite balanced. We have strategic patience, but we will never allow to talk to us in such a language as you just heard from the